It's either this or running lights. If it's this, it'll be fine. It's just gonna. Tell me what this does.
Go live.
Yeah, we're going on.
Good morning,
Good morning, everybody.
Randy gave us the yeah.
What we have here is a
The
failure
failure
to
to
communicate.
communicate.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody. Hope you have a great morning. Hope everyone has already texted or called their moms and loved on them and tell you how much you appreciate them.
What if we haven't?
Well, that'd be awkward.
Also,
You could probably do it right now because she's probably watching.
what if our live stream is on in my pocket?
Then it would make noise.
It's like the third time in a row that's on that. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Love you. I'll call you later.
So we have some announcements.
Couple of
A
announcements.
couple.
Yeah, exactly. A couple too.
Okay, take it away.
Okay. Well, first off, can I get that first slide up there? If you are a graduating senior, first off, congratulations. A lot of y'all are already done. Super proud of you guys. We want to celebrate you as a church, and so we're not meeting in person right now, but we still want to do a couple of things for you. We want to give you a gift. We want to throw your face up, your baby pictures, so be like, oh, look how cute they were. What happened? So if you are graduating senior, high school or college, there's a sign up. That's on the website under events. It's on the app under events. You can sign up right now. We'll throw that up in the chat and on social media today. But sign up before, I believe that is a Wednesday, May 20th. And we will recognize you on the live stream on the 24th in addition to some other stuff.
So if you don't sign up, you won't get recognized.
If you don't sign up, you won't get recognized. That's
so
right.
sign up.
So sign up. Parents, if your kid's like forgetful like I was and just didn't do stuff,
Do it for
sign
them.
them up. Do it for them. Except maybe don't because they're an adult now. So they're out of high school. So make them do it themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Other thing, I'm really excited about this next.
In other
announcement.
news.
In other news, sure. We are doing a live Q&A on Wednesday. This Wednesday.
Question and answer.
That's what the Q&A stand for. Yeah.
Yes.
Question and answer.
Yeah.
Was that your question?
Maybe.
That was my answer.
Okay.
So you can submit an anonymous question online. We've already got a bunch of
So they won't know who I am?
really quick. No. They'll see you. The question is anonymous.
The question is anonymous. So I won't know who asked.
The answer is
it-
anonymous.
Not a
Nathan, is that right? Would anonymous be the opposite of anonymous? He said no.
Okay.
Anyway, so I'll drop a link to that in the chat. There's also one on our Facebook page to the Google form where you can ask any question, and we'll select probably 10 to 12 of them. And me and you and Nathan will be just kind of chatting.
And I want y'all to
answering
try to
those.
stump us. I
Yeah.
want some hard,
Ooh.
good questions.
We actually should have made that the event, like stump Pastor
Oh,
Brent.
gosh.
I'm gonna make a graphic for that. It's gonna have your
With
face
the
on
stump
it,
on it?
and it's gonna have like a dunce hat on. That'll be fun.
That's funny.
So you can submit those. We're gonna do that next Wednesday, 7 p.m. when we've been doing the family live stream. And so no family live stream. It'll be this instead. So we're excited about that. for you guys
All
to
your
watch.
burning questions that you've been longing
Deep
for.
down in your heart.
Bible questions, theology questions, church history questions, COVID-19
COVID-19.
questions.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is like
whatever.
So we've already got a lot of good ones.
Star
but
Wars
once-
questions,
Please. Okay, I'll do Star Wars questions.
Lord of the Rings questions.
I'll do that for sure. You got any? I think that's all we have.
we don't have the clock here anymore, so I don't know how much time
long
we
we're
have left
going.
to spend.
It's
With 1 minute.
1 minute.
1 minute.
Do you want to tell your mama joke in honor of Mother's
It's
Day?
Mother's Day. We can't be telling yo mama jokes.
But they're nice. You came up with a nice one.
The one I just came up with?
Yeah, the one I
Okay.
thought was really good.
Okay, so here's my yo mama joke for Mother's Day. Yo mama so sweet that Aunt Jemima get jealous.
That's really good. That's really good. Do you have I asked a question in the chat. I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Ah.
You said, "Are we gonna do this?" And I said, "Maybe." Do you have like a favorite memory with your mom?
Do you have one?
Yeah.
You go first.
So my mom
So I
and
can think
when-
about it.
after I graduated high school, senior
Uh-huh.
recognition, we drove to Denver to see Wicked, which was awesome. That was a great road
Uh-huh.
trip and great show. But then after, this is the memory part.
Hmm.
Afterwards, we went to the parking garage to find our car, and we could not find where we parked for like 30 minutes. And it was like that episode of Seinfeld where they can't remember where they
I
walked
love
the whole
Seinfeld,
episode.
yeah.
I know you do. So it's like that. Seriously,
Yeah.
for a full 28 minutes,
Yep.
we could have done an episode, like a recreation of the episode of
Mhm.
Seinfeld. And it was just so funny. We
Mhm.
laugh about it to this day. So
Okay, well, there's a lot of memories of my mom that I like.
me too.
I know, but I'm trying to think of which one is the best. So I think what I would say, so my parents really, but my mom loves projects. We're always painting or building fish koi ponds in the backyard or doing some kind of construction thing. And so I always loved doing those things with her, building, creating things with her.
That's sweet. That's a good
I
one.
know. Okay.
That's a good one.
Hey guys, let's sing together. Happy Mother's Day. We'll be back in a moment. I'll pray the chasm that lay between. How high the mountain I could not climb. In desperation, I turned to heaven and spoke your name into the night. Then through the darkness, your loving kindness torn through the shadows of my soul. The work is finished, the end is written. Jesus Christ, my living hope. Who could imagine so great a mercy? What heart could fathom such boundless grace? The God of ages stepped down from glory to wear my sin and bear my shame. The cross has spoken, I am forgiven. The King of Kings calls me his own. Beautiful Savior, I'm yours forever. Jesus Christ, I live in hope. Hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. And hallelujah, praise the one who set me free. Hallelujah, death has lost its grip on me. You have broken every chain. There's salvation in your name, Jesus Christ, my living hope. Then came the Lord that sealed the promise. Your very body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Then came the morning that sealed the promise. Your very body began to breathe. Out of the silence, the roaring lion declared the grave has no claim on me. Oh, Jesus.
Our God is for us. The Father's love is a strong and mighty fortress. Raise your voice now. No love is greater. Who can stand against us if our God is for us? Neither height nor depth can separate us. Hell and death will not defeat us. He who gave His Son to free us holds me in His love. Neither height nor depth can separate us. Hell and death will not defeat us. He who gave His Son to free us holds me in His love. Sing with joy now. Our God is for us. The Father's love is a strong and mighty fortress. Raise your voice now. No love is greater. Who can stand against us if our God is for us? Sing with joy now. Our God is for us. The Father's love is a strong and mighty fortress. Raise your voice now. No love is greater. Who can stand against us if our God is for us?
All right. Happy Mother's Day. Mother's Day is such a special time because we get to say thank you to the moms in our life, or the people who've been motherly to us, for all the things. Without moms, we would be a wreck. I think it's in True Grit. There's a line that says, "Without moms, we would all live like billy goats," and that is true. Moms take care of us when we're sick. It seems like when moms never get sick. It seems, or when they do, they keep going. Moms are there when we need them. Moms are amazing. And so to all the moms out there, big thank you. We love you. To all the grandmothers and great-grandmothers out there, we love you. We thank you for being kind and motherly. But I wanted to take this moment to also to think about those people who are listening, who this is maybe the first year without your mom. This is the first Mother's Day that your mom's not here anymore. This is the first Mother's Day where your grandma's not here anymore, your great-grandma. And this is tough. Maybe you're listening right now and you want to be a mom and it hasn't happened for you. Maybe you're listening and you've tried, you've prayed, you've gone to the doctor, you've done all these things and it doesn't seem to be happening. This day is difficult for a lot of people. And I just want to recognize that for a minute. I want to own that and say, I understand your pain, and the Lord understands your pain. There's countless examples in the Bible of women who are barren, and the Lord is always compassionate and caring and kind and near to them. So if that's you and you're walking through this season, we want to pray for you. But we want to just recognize that we know this day's hard and it's difficult. But I want you to know that the Lord is kind and near to you. And draw near to Him in this season. Use Him. Lean on Him for strength in this difficult time for you. In a moment, we want to pray for you. But now we come to a time in our service where we give. We give so that we can continue to support all that our church is doing, to love on and serve our community, to be a light in the darkness in this community. And so if you would consider giving this morning, the way you can do that is by texting FBC gift to 77977. It'll send you a link, and it's pretty easy. You can give that way. You can give on our website or on our app. If you consider doing that, we'd be very grateful for that. Our heart in giving is this prayer that we like to pray. And so if you would read this at home with me, and let this echo and reverberate down into your heart, and I think it'll begin to mold you. So let's pray this. All that we have received from God. We bring nothing into this world and take nothing out of it. We choose to follow the way of Jesus and increase in generosity until it can be said, there is no one in need among us. We choose to be faithful stewards of all of our resources, relationships, time, possessions, and money. We choose to be generous because our Father is generous. And as his daughters and sons, we want to show the world what he is like. That's our prayer. If you would give, we'd be incredibly grateful for it. Last thing, big shout out and big thank you to Jody Meese and her team. I'm going to miss somebody, but Jody Meese, Jenna, Elaine, Kelly, and then several others got together and over yesterday distributed 130 something little gift boxes to all of the mothers and even just the women in our church. So we went and gave those out just as a way to say we love you and we appreciate you and we know you. And so we hope you received that. We hope you got it. I think there may be still a couple today that they're going to give out that they haven't got to quite yet. I know Jody was on the road almost all day delivering these things. And so I hope you got that. I hope it warmed your heart, and I hope you felt love from that. But let me say this. If you did not get one and you felt like you should have got one, there's a lot of people to keep up with. And we had lists and lists, and we went through them. And if you felt like we missed you, it's probably because we don't have great data in our database on you. If you would message us through Facebook or email or whatever, and let us know that, we will right that wrong, and we want to get one to you. We don't want to miss anyone, and it's hard to not do that sometimes. And so please don't feel slighted. We tried our best, but let us know, and we'll bring one to you. And so we hope you received that and felt love from that. Anyways, let's pray, and we'll continue our service. God, this morning, we want to recognize and love and say thank you to all the moms in our lives. God, we're thankful that you put moms in our lives because we would not be the people we are without them. So God, we're grateful for that. God, we want to pray for those people this morning who today is particularly difficult. It's difficult because their mom's no longer here. It's difficult because they want children and haven't been able to have them. It's difficult because in the season of the coronavirus, they want to be with their mom, but they haven't been able to go see their mom in a long time. So God, I pray for those people right now, and I pray you would be near to them. I pray you would be close to them. I pray you would warm their hearts and comfort them in a way that only you can. I pray for those women who want to be mothers and who haven't been able, that you would open their wombs. I pray that you would work supernaturally and that you would help them to have babies. And God, if that not be the case, I pray that you would warm in their heart adoption. God, that they would be moved to make a child that wasn't naturally coming from them their own. What a beautiful thing. God, I pray that you would bring comfort in a day that can be difficult for so many. And I pray that you would bring love to so many today where they feel appreciated and honored. God, thank you for today. Thank you for your love and your mercy. We love you. In Christ's name we pray. All those people said, amen. Let's keep singing, guys.
Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever bring. We live for you, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. Oh, we live for you. Only there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me. God will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. Oh, I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation, and I will put my trust in you alone, and I will not be shaken. And holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder and show me who you are and fill me with your heart and lead me in your love to those around me.
Come on. All right, here we go. Guys, all right.
God knew what he was doing when he gave me my mom.
What does mom mean to me? Well, it means a few things.
And she takes care of me. Working hard on stuff even when she does me too. What I like doing with her is cooking in the kitchen. She makes great meals and she does very good with them. I'm very proud of her.
Mom looks after her children. She shows love and compassion.
The finder of all things. If mom can't find it, it is definitely lost.
Honor, integrity, selflessness, pure unconditional love. Really all the great things that makes us human.
Mom is the first one to model for us what grace, mercy, and forgiveness truly look like.
She's the strongest woman I know. She's taught me about Jesus. She teaches me every day what a Proverbs 31 woman is. I hope that someday I can be half the woman that she is.
And just wanted to say, everybody says that their mother is the best, and probably everybody will say that today, but not every mom can be the best. So I'm going to deem that you're the best, and I think anybody that knows you would say the same.
I love my mom because she snuggles me a lot. It makes me happy and scares me all the time. That mom means home to me. And whenever I think about her, I know I'm going to be with her soon. So if I'm not far away from her. My mom means a lot to me. She takes care of me and helps me all day. I love my mom because she reads me books and cooks good meals, and she also cuddles me, and I like it.
The most important thing that mom means to me is how to love God and serve God, and how to love your family. And that's, I think, the biggest thing that our mom showed to us. And for that, I'm extremely grateful.
She helps me when I struggle.
What my mommy means to me, she's the best mommy. I love her so very much.
She spreads her love throughout this family, and she makes all of us happy.
When I think of mom, I think of an empathetic listener, someone who's always in my corner and always has my back.
Mothers are fierce. They fiercely provide and care for and nurture and love their children. They do anything.
My mom means love. I love doing things with her, but the thing that I love most is baking.
But she reminds me of Proverbs 31, specifically the part where it says that her children will rise up and call her blessed, and her husband will praise her, saying, many women have done excellently, but you have surpassed them all.
Moms are a gift from God. Moms love you. Moms take care of you.
Emotional yet the rock, tired but keeps going, worried but full of hope, impatient yet patient.
Mom means to me like she's a big rainbow that I need, and she just brightens up my day. And
Say, Mama's the best.
I love my mom because she is very kind and loving, and that's everything to do with her is acceptable.
Caretaker, someone who loves you more than himself and doesn't want anything bad to happen to you.
my mom means to me a lot because I love her.
I love my mom because she keeps me safe and she helps me stay organized. I also love my mom because I love to help her cook dinner.
Overwhelmed but never quits. Amazing even though doubted. Wonderful even in the chaos. Life changer every single day.
So I think that being a mom, what it means to me, it means everything.
Love you, Mom. Love you, Kate.
Thank you, Mom. I love you.
I love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
So, love you, Mom.
Happy Mother's Day. We love you, Mom.
Love you, Mommy. I love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day. I love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
So I love you, and happy Mother's Day. Enjoy.
Bye, Mom. I love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
Love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
Love you, Mom. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. We love you.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. We miss you. We miss you. Love you.
All right. Happy Mother's Day. That might have been the cutest video I've ever seen. Also, false start, 5-yard penalty on me. Jumping up here early. I was just ready to go. So here we go. James chapter 4 is where we're camping out today. I'm being told to scoot back. So I'm going to do that. James chapter 4. So if you have your Bibles, turn there. If not, it'll be up here on the screen. So I remember one of the earliest conflicts in my marriage was we were moving into our first actual house. We were renting in Kentucky, and we were unpacking everything, and we had some people helping bring boxes in from the truck into the house. And I got asked the question, where do you want stuff? Where do you want it to go? And not thinking, just speaking quickly, I said, yeah, put all of my stuff over there and put all of her crap over there. And I meant nothing by it, but the look on my wife's face calling her stuff crap, I still hear about it to this day in a joking, fun sort of way. But needless to say, in that moment, there was some conflict because of my words. Conflict is something that every one of us experience. Conflict is something that we have between friends, even good friends. Conflict is something that happens between coworkers and your spouse, your children. It even happens between strangers. fighting and conflict has ruined relationships. It has turned who were once best friends into mortal enemies. It has ruined marriages. Conflict has even split churches. From the moment Adam and Eve rebelled against God, there has been conflict in the world. You see it very quickly in when Adam's two sons have this conflict over their offerings to God, and that conflict leads to Cain, the older son, killing Abel. But that is not the way that God created or designed the world to be. There's this really great Hebrew word, I think, that describes how God created the world. And it's a word you've probably heard before. It's the word shalom. And the word shalom, it means universal flourishing and harmony. When God created the world, there was no such thing as conflict. There was no fighting. Everything and everyone worked together in perfect unison and harmony. Like a well-oiled machine, everything worked right and was right in the world. You know, there was no conflict between us and God. There was no conflict between us and other people. There was no conflict between us and the animals. Instead, everything worked perfectly together. There was never anyone one-upping each other. You know, sometimes you'll get together and someone will tell a story about how they did X and such, and you go, oh yeah, well one time I did this, and then, it's a little better, and then they come back, oh yeah, well one time, it was like this, and we just one-up each other. There was none of that. There was no jealousy. There was no envy, no backstabbing. There were no hurt feelings. There were no harsh words. Everything was perfect shalom, perfect harmony. But from Adam's rebellion against God, from then until now, we have not had that type of peace in the world. We have not had that type of world. Instead, we live in a world where harsh words are spoken, where we speak too quickly, where tempers flare, where opinions turn into indisputable facts and arguments that ruin relationships. We live in a world that is always in conflict. Conflict, fighting, arguing, or this, I love this word, quarreling, is not something that Christians are immune to. We often joke about how churches will argue over the color of the carpet. But in reality, that's not a joke. There have been churches who have split, who have divided, who have people who have left the church to start another church because they did not like the color of the carpet that somebody chose to put in the church. I had kind of a little bit of moment like this when I was early on in my ministry, when I was a youth pastor in Kentucky. I was fresh there, a couple weeks in. I got there and the youth room had not seen any love in a while, and all the walls were white and it was barren, and I was envisioning what kind of ministry could happen in this room. And I got some leaders together and we got some paint and threw it up on the walls, and we hung pictures and we did all this stuff. And I was so excited for the moment that the youth would walk in on Wednesday night and see this room that was going to be their room. And I was so excited for the looks on their faces and how they were going to be like, wow, this is awesome. This is so cool. And I remember the first student that walked in was the senior pastor's daughter. And when she walked in, she went, this looks hideous. and I remember just going, just being drained, and I can tell you what, we had some conflicts for a little bit, okay? Churches have split for aesthetical differences. They have split over music preference. They have split over preaching style. They've split over the color of the carpet. There is a reason that in almost every church, whenever changes are made, people will ask, like this has happened to me all the time, no matter what church I'm in, people ask, you make a change, oh, is so-and-so going to be mad? Or is this group or that group going to be upset? And everybody walks on eggshells and is so nervous when you change something because they're worried about who's going to be upset, who's going to be offended, who is the conflict going to be with? Christians are not only not immune to conflict, sometimes I think it's sad to say that people in the church sometimes have such conflict that we don't even look different than the rest of the world. I watched growing up as a small group of people in my childhood church, secretly under the cover of night, went to our music minister and forced him out because they didn't like his blended worship style, and how they went and manipulated him because this small group of people didn't like him and they pushed him out. I've seen people in church make complete fools of themselves, arguing over the smallest of things, yelling at their fellow brothers and sisters in Christ over trivial matters. There's a reason that business meetings have the kind of persona that they do, because so many churches have these crazy business meetings, and I'm grateful that we do not. You know, I myself have not been immune to conflict. I remember at that same church early on, I wanted to merge two committees together because it seemed to make sense. And I went to all the people in those committees and I said, hey, we're going to do this. Do you want to be on the new mega committee? And some people said yes, and some people said no. And when we got to the business meeting, it seemed like a formality for me to just, hey, we're going to vote to merge these committees. And here's the people that are going to be on it. And when I did that, I thought it was going to be super easy. And then all these people who I had talked to who didn't want to be on it anymore felt slighted and felt offended and felt left out and felt like they were kicked off of it. And I proceeded to make a fool of myself in front of the whole church, arguing and being in conflict with them in front of everyone. And so I made a fool of myself. And so I've not been immune to conflict. Christians are not immune to conflict. We're not immune to fighting amongst one another. And sometimes that fighting makes us look no different than the world. And the question is, why is that? James opens up this chapter and he asks a rhetorical question. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? I skipped that. To save time, I'm not going to read the whole thing. We'll walk through it slowly. So jump down for me, Scott. That's not Scott's fault. That's my fault. There we go. What causes quarrels and what causes fights among you? That's verse 1. That's the question he's asking. So what is it that causes us to fight? What is it that causes us to quarrel, to have conflict? Not just in the church, but in our marriages and in our friendships and even with strangers on social media. I can tell you what our immediate answer typically is. Why do we have conflict? If you ask most people who are in the middle of a conflict with someone else and you ask them, what's the problem here? Why are you fighting? Why are you quarreling? What causes this fight amongst you? Most people in the midst would say this, almost without fail, they would say, well, it is because they said this, or it's because they did that, or it's because they did not do this or did not do that. They point the finger at the other person. The reason there's conflict is because of them. Most of the time, our answer to the question, when we're mad or fighting, has nothing to do with us. It has to do with the other person. We think if they weren't so unreasonable, or if they were not so demanding or so rude, or if they would just listen to me, or be more thoughtful, or be more considerate, there wouldn't be a problem. The problem in our mind of conflict is always them. They're the problem. But James quickly gets to the real answer and the real heart of the problem. He says this, is it not this? The answer to the question, why do we fight? That your passions are at war within you. You desire, remember that word desire, you desire and do not have, so you murder. You covet and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You see, James says the problem is not the other person. The problem, the reason there's conflict, the reason you are fighting is because of you. You are the problem, or I am the problem. And specifically, he is saying, it is the desire of your heart that is the problem. It is the desires of your heart that are the problem. You see, because we are fallen creatures who have been stained by sin. It's not just our actions that are a problem, but even the deeper below the actions, the deeper thing, the deeper desires themselves that are wrong and broken and selfish. We have disordered desires in our hearts that lead us to conflict. We live in a me for me type world. Me for me. Where we live for ourselves, and if there's something that we don't like, or if something we want, something we either go around someone or we go through them to get what we want. We naturally live a me for me life. We naturally live a me for me life. Conflict arises because our sinful, selfish desires are not being met. You got to understand that. You have to understand the reason the conflict is happening is because there is a desire, a longing, a want in me that is not being met. There is something I am not getting that I feel like I want or deserve. I'm not getting it, and so therefore the conflict happens. We want recognition or credit, and we don't get it, and so we get angry at the person who leaves us out. We think we deserve a break because we've been working all day and we want to go home and sit in our comfy chair, and your spouse thinks, hey, you're home, it's time for you to start helping out around here. And we get into a conflict. You think your opinion on a certain matter should have been heard or followed, and yet your boss asked your coworker instead of you. And you feel slighted, you feel unwanted, you feel unheard and not valued, and so there's conflict. At the heart of every conflict is a desire in you that is not being met. At the heart of every conflict is a sinful desire in you that is not being met. Therefore, there's the conflict. Basically, what James is telling us in verse 2, the problem is there is something you want, or worse, something you think you deserve, and you're not getting it. You want or think you deserve respect or recognition or rest or power or control or to be loved or to be wanted. And if you don't get it, there's conflict. Our desires, these desires that are unmet, are broken in us. There is a war, James says, inside of us, a war being waged at every moment. Should I live for me or should I live for you? Should I live for my desires or should I push down and squelch my desires? George MacDonald once wrote, the one principle of hell is I am my own. The one principle of hell is I am my own. And is that not how we so often live? That our desires are broken and disordered, and so we fight, we get into conflict with people because there's something we wanted or thought we deserved, something we desired, it wasn't given to me, and so we fight. I am my own, me for me. That is the root of every conflict. I am the problem. You are the problem. Our broken desires that we try to get are the problem. Me for me. James goes on to say that our disordered desires, our me for me life, not only puts us into conflict with others, but it puts us into conflict with God. So our broken desires, they on a horizontal, they put us into conflict with each other, but then they also put us into conflict with God. He says this, you do not have because you do not ask. You ask and do not receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your passions. You adulterous people. Do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God or hatred with God? Therefore, whoever wishes to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. James says, the reason we don't have the things we desire is because either one, we don't ask, or two, he says, sometimes we ask wrongly. Meaning we ask God for something, but what we're doing is we're treating God like this cosmic vending machine. That God is only as valuable as he is able to give me what I want or desire. Instead of praying about our desires, God, should I have this? Is this good for me? Do I need this? Instead of praying, we indulge in them. Instead of asking God for wisdom, that if the desire is right, and if it's good, we ask for it and expect it. Rather than trusting the Father who delights to give us good gifts to his children, we decide what we think is good and what we want and what we should have. You see, we don't want God to tell us if we should desire something. We don't want God to tell us, no, that's a wrong desire. You shouldn't want for that. We just want God to give us what we want. We want him to rubber stamp it and approve it and send it on. We treat God as a means to our own desires, that instead of submitting to him and saying, God, whatever you want, I want, we want to tell God what we need. And so it's interesting. James calls us an adulterous people. And what's interesting is that the translation of that actually misses it a little bit, because if you translated it exactly, it wouldn't make sense. Because he literally says, you adulteresses, which in English or in Greek is strictly female. He calls us adulteresses. He calls us the female version of that word. And the reason he says it that way is he is reminding us of a pattern that we see over and over and over again in the Bible, that God wants to relate to us, not simply as a king to servants or a shepherd to sheep or even a father to a child, but mostly as a husband to a wife. That he deeply loves us. And spiritually speaking, he wants to relate to us as intimate as a husband relates to a spouse, to his wife. And so you can see that those disordered desires in us are like a wife who is more interested in her high school sweetheart than she is her husband. That is what it is like when we give in to our desires. We want them more than God. We are like a wife who is more interested in the man of her past than the man of her present, of her husband. It is like spiritual adultery when we need our desires more than we need God. When we need approval or credit or respect or power or affection or attention or to be listened to more than we want the love of God, more than we want a relationship with God, it is adulterous. It breaks his heart. Our selfish desires not only put us into conflict with others, but put us into conflict with God. So what do? How do we fix this? Our desires are selfish. Our desires are wrong. Our desires cause conflict with those we love. They cause conflict with our brothers and sisters in Christ. They cause conflict between us and God. So what do? How do we fix it? How do we not only fix it, but prevent it from happening? The answer to all of those questions, how do we fix the conflict between us and God? How do we fix the conflict between us and other people? And then how do we even prevent it from happening? The answer is the same. And it is very simple, yet very profound. It's humility. It's humility. James brings it up again and again. Throughout the whole Bible, we see it's humility. Here's what James says. Or do you suppose it is to no purpose that the scripture says that he, God, yearns jealously over the spirit that he has made to dwell in us, but he gives more grace. Therefore, it says, God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. He opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. The answer to our conflicts with God and with others starts and ends with humility. Notice that God gives grace to the humble, but opposes the proud. He gives grace, he gives unmerited favor. He gives forgiveness to the humble, but opposes the proud. It is the proud person who says, I did nothing wrong. It is the proud person who says, it was all their fault if they hadn't done this or that. It is the proud person that says, if they would have just been kinder to me, if they would have approached me this way, if they would have listened to me, if they would have done this, or if they would have done that, it would have been fine, but the conflict is all their fault. That is pride. And it takes great humility instead to say, I was wrong. I shouldn't have acted that way. I should not have said the things I said. I shouldn't have even felt the way I felt and acted on it. It takes humility to confess, but with confession comes forgiveness, comes grace. You see, God is not waiting for you to be humble with his arms crossed and his nose turned up. The text reminds us, it says that God is jealous for us. And jealousy for humans is normally a negative emotion, right? We don't usually jealousy is not a good thing, but for God it is good. It is this longing to be loved like a wife loves her husband. See, God, like the father in the prodigal son story, is not waiting with his arms crossed and nose turned up, but is anxiously looking up over the hill, waiting for you to crest the peak and to come home. He is waiting for just an ounce of humility, an ounce of confession, an ounce of God, I messed up, for him to run and embrace us, throw his arms around us and say, I know, but it's okay. I forgive you. I love you. Welcome home. No matter what you've done, forgiven, it's a new day. You see, fixing the conflict between you and God begins with humility and moves you to confession and then to forgiveness. It takes humility to confess you are wrong. It takes humility to resist the devil and flee from temptation. It takes humility to come to God and say, God, I need forgiveness. Our conflict with other people is fixed very much the same way. Do you know what never fixes conflict between two people? If you say, look, I'm sorry for the way I acted and what I said to you, but you know what? You can't expect me to just do nothing when you did what you did to me, when you hurt me like you hurt me. You can't expect me just to sit by and take it laying down. That's not humility. Or if you say, you know what? I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry if what I did was wrong. That's not humility either, because when you say if, it doesn't acknowledge your part in the conflict. I want to give you this morning the best practical advice that I have ever received. Honestly, this has been the most helpful tool in my life. And I learned this in premarital counseling when Kate and I were going through that. We read a book called When Sinners Say I Do. And it's incredibly helpful. See, when you're all going to face conflict. And the question is, what matters is how you handle it. I said earlier that what James is telling us is that the reason for the conflict in our lives is you. The reason you're in conflict is you. You are the problem. You and your selfish desires. And that is the way you should approach every conflict, whether in your marriage, your friendships, in church, wherever. Yes, there were two people involved or more involved in the conflict. Yes, there is blame to go around. Yes, the other person was at fault as well. But the only thing that you can do, the only thing that you are accountable for is yourself. And here's the advice I learned in this book. In every conflict and every fight, ask the question, what did I do wrong? Go to the person. Confess and own up to what you did wrong. Even if the other person is 90% to blame and you are only 10% to blame, own up to your 10%. Don't point the finger at them. Only own up to what you did. Confess your part and ask them to forgive you for what you did wrong. And do you know what you will find? You will find more often than not that your humility and your confession of the wrong that you did and your asking them for forgiveness, which takes great humility to not just say, I'm sorry, or I shouldn't have done that, but to look at them and say, will you forgive me? More often than not, what that does is lower their guard. It softens their heart. And more often than not, you will find that they say, you know what? I forgive you, and I shouldn't have done what I did either. And I shouldn't have spoke to you the way I did, and I shouldn't have felt the way I did. I'm sorry. Will you forgive me? More often than not, in your marriages, in your friendships, wherever, you will find that to be the case. This has been incredibly helpful in my marriage because we get in fights like everybody else does. And when I am tempted to look at her and all the things that she said and she did wrong, I'm reminded of this and say, I can only look at what I did. As Paul said, I am the chief of sinners. And if I look at me and say, what did I do wrong? I go own those things. Even if I'm only 10% to blame, which is not usually the case. I own that. It softens her heart and we can work it out. Try that in your life. It will be incredibly helpful. Chapter 3, a previous chapter, ended with this verse. It says, and a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. A harvest of righteousness And when he says righteousness there, he really means that all is right in the world. Everything, the full meaning of that word. Harvest of rightness is sown in peace by those who make peace. See, when you through humility make right the wrongs you have done, you make peace. You bring healing. You set things right. And relationships come out stronger on the other side, more unified, more honest than before. Some of my best friendships have come out of times that I made the biggest fool of myself because I gave into my selfish desires. But then in humility, I owned up and made them right. And now those friendships are stronger than ever. But how do we not just mend conflict, but prevent it? How do we prevent conflict from happening to begin with? How do we create a community of peace where we don't let our selfish desires win the war in our hearts and lead to conflict in our marriages and our friendships and in our church? See, to stop the fighting, to stop conflict, to stop all these things, you must understand what humility truly is. And I don't think we do. I don't think we understand humility. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is thinking of yourself less. And that's a cute little phrase, but those are fundamentally different. Humility does not mean I am shy and quiet and reserved. It doesn't mean that humility is not just to beat yourself up and make yourself feel guilty. It doesn't mean you have a low self-esteem. It doesn't mean you make yourself feel shame. Humility is not that. Humility doesn't even mean you're quiet or anything like that. Humility is just not thinking about you, your needs and your desires. It takes the focus off of you and onto others. You see, humility is not me for me. Humility is me for you. That's humility. Humility is what the Bible tells us to do over and over again. Think about this. Here's a couple of phrases from the Bible. Consider others more important than yourself. Take up your cross. The last will be first and the first will be last. To find your life, you must lose it. See, the Bible shows us that God's kingdom appears upside down when compared to the values of this world. That the selfish desires in your heart are the desires of this world. The desire to be on top, to be first, the desire for credit, the desire to be noticed, and on and on. But in God's kingdom, it's opposite. To go up, you must go down. To go left, you must go right. To go in, you must go out. To live, you must die. In God's kingdom, if you want to find true joy, if you want to find true life, it is the opposite path that this world tells you to follow. It's upside down. It can never be me for me. It must be me for you. Here's a test. I want to give you a test so that you can evaluate your own heart. And all of us are going to see ourselves pride in different ways. And so here's the test. Which of these describe you? Pride makes you more aware of others' faults and ignores your own. But humility makes you far more aware of your own faults than others. Pride leads you to speak of others' faults with disdain. Humility, whenever you speak of others' faults, you only do it with grief and mercy. Pride moves you to quickly separate from people who you have criticized or who have criticized you. You quickly break those relationships off. You ignore those people. You avoid them. Humility moves you to stick with people even through difficult relationships because you know your own shortcomings. Pride. You are dogmatic and sure about everything you think. You can't distinguish between major and minor points of belief, and every opinion you hold is major. Humility is patient with people as they think and wrestle through beliefs, giving grace where there is disagreement. Pride loves to confront people because they like winning, or, this is interesting, pride likes to confront people because they like winning, or actually refuses to confront people because they don't want the controversy. Those are actually both prideful. Humility confronts only when necessary. And when they do confront, they change people's lives because they're not in it to win, they're in it to heal and restore. See, pride often leads to unhappy people who are sorry for themselves because they know how life should go and they believe they deserve a good life. But humility says, I deserve to be cast off. I deserve nothing, and only by the grace of God can I live. So where do you stack up? When you think about those things, where does your heart feel in those? So this is what a humble person looks like. They are slow to speak of others' faults. And when they do, they always speak of them with grace. They stick with people through difficulty. They are flexible and are not dogmatic. They are not afraid to confront people, but they always do it with humility and speak gently because they are in it for healing and not to win. There's no self-pity, and there's not grumbling and complaining about life. Instead, they have quiet joy. If we, as the people of God, would put on that sort of humility, if we would live life, not me for me, but me for you, then we would create the kind of community, the kind of church and marriages and friendships that would thrive. And our community would then become this dim reflection of heaven itself. Think about churches that modeled this, that if every member modeled that type of humility and care and love, people would walk in and say, this must be a little bit of what heaven is like. Because you know what? You see? That kind of humility is exactly what heaven modeled for us. You see, heaven gave us its only Son. Jesus came into the world and was the ultimate example of my life for yours. There's no one who has modeled my life for yours better than Jesus. Jesus left power. Jesus left glory. Jesus left everything that he had, and he considered it all joy to give his life for yours. Knowing that you weren't worthy of his life, he gave it anyway. Knowing that you would mock him and beat him and betray him again and again. You would deny him, yet still you wronged him, yet still he would give his life for yours. Not me for me, but me for you. And on the cross, Jesus cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? You see, Jesus gave his life and he was rejected by God for your and my sin. Jesus was rejected. He was lonely. He was cut off from God so that when you draw near to God, God can and will draw near to you. That's a promise James makes us. God is looking, he's trigger happy with his grace, and he is looking for just one little ounce of humility and confession for him to come embrace you. He sent his only Son. He would give up everything and live his life for you so that God could draw near to you, fix the conflict between you, and make you whole. There is no conflict, whether with God or with others, that can't be healed or prevented by putting on humility. By living, not me for me, me and my needs, me and my desires, me and what I feel like I deserve. Not living like that. Not me for me, but me for you. And only when I live me for you, only when you live you for me, will you find life and joy and happiness and fulfillment. Your desires are the desires of this world. They say you for you, me for me. And if you do that, you'll get on top, you'll get what you deserve, and you'll be happy. But that is what hell is like. Hell is me for me. Hell is isolation, all about me. But heaven's me for you. And when we have a community of people who are all living me for you, oh, what a beautiful place of peace that is. So church, let's aspire to that. Every one of us. Let's put on humility and let's live me for you, you for me. What a beautiful place that would be. God, give us that type of peace. Give us that type of humility that creates a community and a church and a people who don't fight and split over the color of the carpet, but all are laying down their lives for each other, who care more about others' needs than our own. God, give us that grace. Forgive us when we fail, because we will fail. We'll fail again and again. But give us the humility to confess our failures, receive grace, and move on. You see, we can confess. We can have the humility to confess, because here's the deal. Every one of us are in the same boat. There's not one of us in this room or listening here or in the entire world who has not been humble, who has been proud and who has been arrogant and who has been a jerk and who has been mean, who has spoken harshly, who has done rude things. We have all done that. And so we can all come together and link arms and say, you too? Yeah, me too. Confess it together, receive grace, and then in humility walk forward. Because God will look at you and smile. God, give us the grace to be humble. In your son's name we pray. Amen. Let's sing together.
Come, you weary heart, now to Jesus. Come, you anxious soul, now and see. There is perfect love and comfort in your tears. Rest here in his wondrous peace. Oh, the goodness of Jesus, satisfied, he is all that I need. May it become what may, that I rest all my days in the goodness of Jesus. Come find what this world cannot offer. Come and find your joy here complete. Taste the living water, never thirst again. Rest here in his wondrous peace. Oh, the goodness of Jesus, satisfied, he is all that I need. May it become what may, that I rest all my days in the goodness of Jesus. Come and find your hope now in Jesus. He is all he said he would be. Grace is overflowing from the Savior's heart. Rest here in his wondrous peace. Oh, the goodness of Jesus, satisfied, he is all that I need. May it become what may, that I rest all my days in the goodness of Jesus. Oh, the goodness of Jesus, satisfied, he is all that I need. May it become what may, that I rest all my days in the goodness of Jesus. May it become what may, that I rest all my days in the goodness of Jesus.
All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I want to remind you of a couple announcements. Graduation.
Recognition.
What do we need to do?
You can sign up. You just got to fill out a form, upload a couple pictures. It's on the website under events, also on the church app under events, and we'll post that link on Facebook today. And we won't post it on Instagram. Those new links very well. But we'll post it on Facebook.
We don't want anyone to miss out on this, and so if you don't fill out the form, you will miss out. And so please go do that.
We won't know you.
We won't know who you are. And there's a lot of people to keep up with. So
This shirt kind of matches this.
Oh, it does.
At least in real life, I don't know how it looks on the camera.
So please go fill that out. Second thing, Q&A this week. We've got some great questions already.
Yeah, I know. During the service, we got a couple of really good ones. So
It's pinned in the comments, and so you can hit that link or
it's on Facebook in the events.
So send us hard questions. We want to answer them.
There's already a really hard one in there.
Ooh, you want to share it or no?
No.
Okay. Don't. Ooh, it's a surprise.
It's a surprise.
So grab that. Hey, happy Mother's Day, kids. Go do something nice for your mom. Clean the dishes, do the laundry, clean your room. Don't mean shove everything under the bed. Clean it right and tell her you love her and you want to do something for her.
And if you don't live with your mom, call your mom.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to do.
Yes.
Pretty soon, Mom, as you're watching.
Yes, do that too. We love you guys. Hope you have a great morning. We miss you. We're kind of tired of this.
I'm doing that care emoji. That new care
Hug.
reaction.
So we won't be back soon. We love you guys. Peace be with you.